things are still really expensive here. Like, it's quite easy for me to spend more money on rent than my entire cost of living per month in Croatia or Portugal. I pay more for just utilities here than I spent renting a 4-bedroom house in a vineyard in Montenegro. So this is a bit of a different style of video than I've made before on this channel, but I've been wanting to make it for pretty much the whole year that I've been back living in the US, because I've basically spent half of my life living in foreign countries. And since coming back due to the global circumstances, there's just quite a few things that I've noticed that have either been intriguing me or bothering me or saddening me about what life in modern day America is like. So I just wanted to share some of these insights with you, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm curious to hear your thoughts or if you agree. And I don't want to offend anyone, but sometimes cliches and stereotypes are based in truth, and some stereotypes about the US I have come to believe are in fact quite true. So if you're new here, you're probably wondering, where the heck have you been this whole time? Well, if you've ever lived abroad, you know that sometimes you say you're gonna go for 1 month or 1 year, but then you never come back. And that's pretty much what happened with me. I lived abroad for the first time when I studied abroad at 20 years old. And 1 semester turned into 2 semesters, and 1 year turned into 7 or 8, yada, yada, yada. Because once I realized that I could live in foreign countries, and typically for less money than it cost me to live in the US, I just kept going. Long story short, I've been to a lot of countries, I've learned a lot along the way, and naturally, when you live abroad for a long time and then you come back to your home country, you experience some degree of culture shock, and maybe we can all learn something from it. So whether these things are positive or negative or good or bad, you be the judge. I'm gonna try to be as objective as possible. Here we go. The first thing that I noticed when I got back to the US was the consumerism and materialism mentality of America. Everything is just so big, so expensive, so extreme, or so kind of like overdone and exaggerated. From the cars to the roads to the shopping malls to the quantities of food that you get at restaurants to the selection of stuff that you can get at the grocery store. And so the first thing I had was kind of this consumerism overload when I got back. And I spent so much money in the first 2 months that I was here just on going out to eat and groceries and like buying stuff on Amazon. I mean, I had been living in countries that didn't even have Amazon, and one time I had to mail some stuff from Bali, and I had to actually mail it on a ship. Like, it took 3 months to get to my house in Florida. And in the US, it's like you can get everything you want on demand, and everything always has to be bigger and better. And I guess that's part of the nature of like capitalism and competition, and also the US having so much space to like expand and grow into, but everything is really larger than life here. Like, even today, it's been 8 or 9 months that I've been here, and still when I walk into the grocery store, I'm still overwhelmed with the selection of stuff that's in there, and snacks and impulse buys at the cash register when you're trying to leave. It's quite impressive the way that corporations and marketing experts have designed stores in such a way to really maximize the profit per square foot. It's really hard to get in and out of there without spending more money than you had anticipated. And usually when I'm traveling, I'm sad that there's only one brand of peanut butter. And I used to actually travel with certain things that I really liked, like peanut butter, because I couldn't get like the natural organic kind that I wanted. I used to travel with like pharmaceuticals and all kinds of stuff that I was afraid that I couldn't get in other places, because everything is just so convenient and so available in the US. But the other thing that started happening once I got back was I started feeling like I needed more stuff and that I needed to kind of keep up with the Joneses more, even though everybody was on lockdown. And even though I was like, I don't technically live here. It feels weird to be here without having a car, like walking around or riding my bike like I used to do in Amsterdam, which is totally normal. And then here it's like, there's like a stigma to it. So I don't have a car right now. But even when I did have a car, I never used it because I just rode my bike everywhere because I liked it. I don't think a lot of Americans realize that status is like minimalized or kind of hidden. Like in the Netherlands, for example, where I've been living for on and off for a few years, they're not flashy with money. Like you wouldn't know if someone had a lot of money. Like everyone kind of wants to like blend in, and even the royalty, like even the king and queen are known for being quite modest. They'll like ride their bikes around, just wear normal clothes and whatever. And then in the US, it's like everything is just flashier, more expensive, and the bigger the better. And so I have been feeling like there's more pressure to like show off a little bit here. I found myself feeling like I needed to dress up more, like I needed to wear high heel shoes again for the first time in years and wear more makeup and stuff like that. And I started to wonder why. And I think it's just because you become a product of your environment to a degree. It's not just the culture and society of consumerism, it's also the in-your-face marketing and advertising. Like the sheer volume of billboards and ads and commercial breaks on TV and what they are advertising for has been quite jarring. First and foremost, the pharmaceutical marketing and advertising. It's illegal to advertise pharmaceutical drugs in I think every single country except the US. And so to see such a huge volume of commercials pushing drugs for people to like self-prescribe a drug from watching a commercial and then to go to their doctor and ask for that drug is just very shocking. It's shocking that that's allowed and accepted. And then to see billboards like advertising the ER wait times, advertising hospitals, like why would you want to advertise something like good about the ER? Hopefully you don't have to go there ever. I don't know, that kind of thing is really weird. And then equally, there's ads for a better, more efficient dishwashing detergent that goes in like the dishwasher. And I was thinking there's not even dishwashers in most houses in other countries around the world, and ads for dryer sheets. Like I haven't had a dryer in years. There's not dryers in Europe. It's very rare that you would have a dryer and a dishwasher in your house. So to see advertisements for like dryer sheets and more efficient liquids that go in the dishwasher where you don't have to wash the dishes anyway is kind of surreal. Now, this consumerism thing isn't something new to me because I remember when I was selling real estate in Costa Rica, I remember these clients specifically that bought this beautiful ocean view lot and they were like, we want to simplify, we want to move down to Costa Rica. And so they sold all of their stuff. Like they got rid of hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff that was in their house in Massachusetts. And they moved to Costa Rica. And they literally replaced all of their stuff. Like they built a 3-story house and filled it with more stuff. And they invited me to come see it when it was done. And I was like, what is all of this stuff? And they had basically imported their consumer habits from the US to Costa Rica. And they even brought a container of their stuff down too. So the stuff that they didn't sell, they brought in a shipping container and paid a lot of import taxes and transported it. And that just really stuck with me because I was like, this is not the definition of simplifying. This is just replacing the stuff that you already had. One of the biggest things I've noticed though is the price of everything. Like it really is more expensive to live in the US than most countries. Even in Florida, which is a tax-free state when it comes to state income taxes, and we have a lower cost of living than a lot of other states, things are still really expensive here. Like it's quite easy for me to spend more money on rent than my entire cost of living per month in Croatia or Portugal or Costa Rica. Like, my rent while living abroad has been anywhere from 150 euro per month living in Bulgaria to like maybe $2,000 or $3,000 a month in a place like Australia or Japan or Hong Kong. But in the US, like in my neighborhood, just looking around for like a 1-bedroom unfurnished apartment in a nice area of Miami is like easily $1,500 to $2,000 a month. And then on top of that, you have hundreds of dollars in your electricity bill and your internet. I pay more for just utilities here than I spent renting a 4-bedroom house in a vineyard in Montenegro. And for what I pay for a furnished Airbnb here, I could get a 2 or 3-bedroom furnished Airbnb on the beach in Mexico. So yeah, the cost of rent is more, the cost of utilities is more, the cost of insurance is more, the cost of healthcare is more. My insurance policy is probably at least $300 to $350 per month with like a $10,000 or $15,000 deductible. Or I could pay like $1,000 per year or even a few $100s per year to get travel and emergency medical coverage with Safety Wing. So it's pretty crazy. Like, I just pay out of pocket to get medical treatment anywhere in the world. Like, I'll pay $20 for a doctor's appointment in Thailand or Costa Rica or Nicaragua or something like that. And the same thing here or the same procedure would cost thousands of dollars. Another thing I realized really quickly once I got here was that the pace of life is significantly more intense in the US. I've found that in other countries, people have more balance. At least people have a better quality of life and like a more sustainable pace of life that isn't so intense. Like, the first time I went to Europe, one of the first things I noticed was the leisurely lunches and just so many people sitting outside and enjoying the weather, enjoying the daytime, enjoying their food, enjoying a glass of wine or a beer with lunch. And that just doesn't happen in the US unless it's Sunday brunch or something. Even if you work from home, chances are you've probably eaten at your desk while working from home, even though you don't have to commute anywhere and even though you don't have to like go downstairs to get food or go pick it up. And I think that that just comes from this ingrained workaholic American culture. On that note, regarding the food, it's like the food just doesn't taste as good. I'm not saying there's not amazing chefs and amazing restaurants, but the quality of the ingredients is not good. A lot of the reason for that, I think, is because there are a few really big food providers. So everything tastes quite uniform. Well, not just the food suppliers, but also the factory farming, the GMO ingredients, the mass production. You can taste the difference in the food, and there is a lack of flavor. And also because in the US, convenience, consumerism, you can get any food, any fruit, any vegetable in or out of season at any time of year, as long as you want to pay more for it. But that means that the food isn't as fresh or it's had to travel farther to get here. But in other countries, I've eaten a lot more seasonally and the food might be simpler, but it tastes better. Like, I'm convinced that kids would like to eat vegetables more if their vegetables came from Bulgaria. Like, I spent quite a bit of time in Bulgaria the last couple years, and you can only get what's in season. I remember wanting to get sweet potatoes, and I had to drive to the capital of Sofia, like 2.5 hours away. Well, I didn't just go for sweet potatoes, but I made sure to go to a big grocery store where I could find sweet potatoes because I was craving them and it was summer and they didn't have any. But throughout my travels, I have such vivid memories of specific foods that I ate my entire life growing up in the US, but that just tasted completely different in that other country because it was from there, it was local produce, it was organic, it was in season. So whether it was a pineapple in Costa Rica or an avocado or tomatoes and cherries and apples and plums and pears and peaches in Bulgaria. Pretty much everything in Bulgaria tastes good. Their yogurt too. Or fish in Japan, obviously, so fresh, so good. Arugula in Italy, house wine in France. It's like when you get the product or the ingredient locally and it just grows there and it's in season, it tastes amazing. And when it's not genetically modified. And so I feel like I've been spending a lot of money eating out for like really mediocre food that kind of tastes the same in every restaurant. It's weird. And like another problem is that significantly more of the population is obese. So the US obesity rate right now is 42.4%, which is the first time apparently in the country's history that it's been over 40%, but it might be half of that. Like it's only 18 or 19% in the Netherlands and Japan, but the US has one of the highest obesity rates in the world, and I can't help but think that it's a combination of all of those factors. Also drinking, I feel like people drink more, my friends included. It's like we don't go out much right now anyway, but like when I would go to see them, it was like drink from Friday afternoon through Sunday night and then wake up and go to work on Monday. And I know that other countries like the UK and Ireland and pretty much a lot of countries ingest a lot of alcohol every year, but I feel like the way that Americans treat drinking, it's like always to get drunk as fast as possible and just exceeding moderation. And so that's another thing. And hey, apparently the alcohol sales have skyrocketed in 2020, but that's probably for another reason. Speaking of being home a lot and working from home though, I've noticed that the infrastructure is not so good. My internet in this particular apartment it goes out multiple times per day. And I don't know how many times I've called Xfinity. I've even gotten a backup with AT&T, but I looked it up and the US has pretty mediocre, moderate internet speeds on the global index, but it ranks 119th out of like 206 countries when it comes to the cost. So internet, telecommunications, cell phone service, these things are really expensive in the US and not in other places. So in Estonia, you could pay a few euro and get like an unlimited data plan on your SIM card. Or in Mexico, I just got 3 SIM cards for clients. It cost me like $10 each to get a data plan for 1 month. I mean, in the US, like your cell phone's probably gonna be at least $30 or $40 a month to more than $100 per month. You're probably paying over $100 for your internet and cable package, and you will be paying a third of that in another country. But even though there's not good customer service with the monopoly style companies like telecommunications providers in the US, a positive thing I have noticed is how good the service is in general. Like if you go out to eat at a bar or a restaurant, or any service that you go to get at like a salon, retail store, people are really friendly and the customer service is really good. I mean, it's a tipping society, so maybe people are working for better tips, maybe it's just a cultural thing, but I always feel like when I go out in public in the US, the people are really nice, whether they are selling me something or not. I mean, strangers strike up conversations with me quite often. Could be like at the pharmacy or waiting in line at the fresh market or standing and watching the sunset here in Miami. I mean, Americans are very nice. And when I lived in Paris, people on the street were not talking to me. Like they were not just, oh, bonjour. No. But in the US, it's like everyone's so friendly that, hey, if they're strangers or just friends you haven't met yet. And I really like that about the US. But I've noticed that it can be a little bit shallow. Like these are like friendly acquaintance type of conversations. But then when it comes to making new friends, I found that to be particularly difficult this year. And I found dating to be particularly hard. And I have found the conversations that I have had when I'm getting to know people has been different. Like less depth than it has been during my travels. And maybe it's because when you're traveling and you're meeting foreigners in other places, you don't know when you're going to see them again. So you kind of cut through the like small talk and you get straight to really deep kind of like existential things and philosophical and things about life. And even with the even making friends with locals, like I've just had some amazing conversations in my travels, but I've noticed meeting people here, a lot of stuff centers around the day-to-day. A lot of it is kind of like gossipy, which I'm also not used to, because when you don't live in your home country, like no one talks about you because no one even knows you're there. So it's been weird to be back into this cycle of kind of like pettiness. Like one girl got mad at me because she said that I didn't say goodbye to her when like leaving dinner, but I did. I had to leave early, but she doesn't remember because she was really drunk. So then like her friends, like our mutual friends, told me that she was mad at me and like that sort of stuff. I'm just really not used to that after having living abroad for 15 years. Or my perception is that they get wrapped up about rather insignificant things because it's kind of first world problems. Maybe it's all of the headaches and the hassles and like Murphy's Law and things that go wrong while you travel, or maybe it's being exposed to extreme poverty and pain, like publicly, that you can see in the streets, that it's kind of made me think that like the good little things, those little moments in life are very meaningful, but like little annoyances are not important. So when people are complaining to me that someone cut them off in traffic, or someone said this to them on a Zoom call, or someone said this about so-and-so, or what was she wearing, or whatever, I'm like, you know, I've seen what it's like living in slums and living in a landfill and having never been outside the gates of that landfill. And I know what it's like to live without electricity and not know what a window is because you've never had a window in your house. Like, what is glass? When I lived in Nicaragua and I was managing the construction on an office, I had to actually explain to the construction workers like how to install the window because they didn't have windows in their houses. So it's like when you have that perspective, I don't want to sound pretentious because I know that I've had like a lot of opportunities and privileges to travel, but it also humbles you and grounds you. And so when I hear even my family members talking about silly, trivial things that happened, I'm just like, get over it. Like, none of that is important. Let's not waste our time having a negative conversation about something that really doesn't matter in the whole scheme of the world. Another thing that was quite shocking when I first got here was how intense the mainstream media was. And obviously coronavirus is a big topic in the news everywhere in the world, but overall in the US it seems to be this cycle of like fear, politics, violence, healthcare, and then just like outrage over everything. And other countries obviously cover these topics and cover politics and things in their news, but most other countries have a public option in their healthcare system, or healthcare is free, or it's included in your taxes or whatever, or they don't have as big of health problems as we do. So it's not like always the main focus of the conversation in the news. And other countries also have political debates and different sides and different ideologies and perspectives, but most countries have more than two main political parties. So it's not like this us versus them mentality all the time. It's kind of more diluted and distributed among different groups. I'm not saying that there's any right or wrong way, but it definitely makes sense when I look at the culture of the US, how everything has kind of become simplified and gamified. So it's kind of like, you know, red versus blue, my football team versus your football team, this state rivalry versus another state, or this city versus that city, or us versus them. And so I don't know, I think that maybe that comes from a lot of different things, but it's really not necessary. But at the end of the day, people are inherently good, and that doesn't matter what country you're from. So in America, I think most people are good. It's just that people get dehumanized. And so when you don't have face-to-face or individual interaction with the other side, it can be really easy to just be against something, like an idea or a person or a group of people. And that gets propagated a lot in the media, and it's just more pronounced and more in your face. I think overall, the biggest thing I've noticed is that the US is a bit of like a walking contradiction and a paradox. We are told that the US is the best at most things or has the best everything, but that's not necessarily true. So I heard a guy on the news saying, yeah, we have the best healthcare system in the world, but blah, blah, blah. Like, he had to preface what he was saying with propaganda. Like, the US doesn't have the best healthcare system in the world. Like, it doesn't make the top of world rankings for the Peace Index, happiness, safety, education. I mean, we're just not the best at everything, like internet speed. So it's just keeping things in perspective and realizing that not everything is what it seems. There's something called the Hofstede Index, which ranks countries by different variables, like how individualistic or collectivist they are. And each country can get a different score. And when I studied this in college, I found it so interesting because I didn't even know what that was. I didn't know that the US was an ethnocentric, individualistic country. So, obviously more capitalist than socialist, whereas other countries like India or countries in Latin America are more collectivist, which means that the community is put before the individual. And so since the industrial times, the US has gotten more individualistic and people have become more separated and more spread out. And I think that that could be one of the causes of the problems that we're facing in modern day society, especially with people taking on 100% of the responsibility for childcare and remote learning, and both parents having to work full-time jobs to put food on the table and still being below the poverty line, and like all of these other issues in the US. I mean, coming back to the US during this time has reminded me a bit of why I've basically dedicated my entire life to helping people figure out ways that they can live life on their own terms so that they don't have to remain stuck in one physical geographic place or in one paradigm or in one way of thinking. So if you're thinking of traveling somewhere or moving somewhere, just pursue that curiosity and keep trying to open your worldview. Before I publish this video, I just have one more reflection for you. The United States of America is a phenomenal country full of hundreds of millions of amazing people. But my perception is that in many ways, we have been taught more to value hard work and independence, sometimes at the expense of logic, empathy, and humanity. It goes without saying that the capitalist US system has resulted in more freedom, more wealth, more innovation, and more opportunity for countless people in multiple generations across the planet. However, the system isn't perfect, and it doesn't always work in the best interest of individual people. So, when contemplating your unique place in this completely wondrous time of human history that we find ourselves living in right now, how can you ensure that you're living your life in accordance with your values, your principles, and your goals, while being discerning in what you consume, whether that's what you read or what you eat or what you buy? And equally important, how you react to the many distractions and temptations and the noise of the external world. Feeling gratitude for the conditions that we find ourselves in on the planet right now, but also acknowledging and confronting the very real challenges of modern day life can help us diagnose where we are feeling stuck and where we're feeling unhappy. In 1770, two men, John Hancock and Samuel Adams, made a decision to speak up. And they took actions that would, in the words of Napoleon Hill, spark the revolution that would, quote, change the entire trend of civilization. And he also writes, the power which gave this nation its freedom is the self-same power that must be used by every individual who becomes self-determining. The power that gave this nation its freedom must be used by each and every individual in his or her individual path in life. The ability to travel, to solo travel, as a female in the world today is not lost on me. And it has given me such clarity in my worldview, but also in my sense of self. And in a degree of confidence that I don't think that I could have attained in any other way. And my goal in making this channel was to pass on that gift to I can't say it. Okay. To millions of people that I've never met and will never meet. And so I hope that my videos and this video have helped you make more sense of the world and your unique place in it. Because I believe that all of us are here for a reason. And we're here to help each other on this crazy journey. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts. And now let's get back to the conclusion of this video. So that was kind of a long, rambling video, but hopefully it made you think. Let me know in the comments below if you agree or anything I missed. I'm sure even though I talked a lot, I missed a lot of stuff. And see you in another video.